are back in the day, heading to the waiver wire for week 4 of the NFL season. Well, luckily you got a fantasy pro right here to go run things up on the waiver wire. Now we got a lot of names you can see on the top. We're going to break down every single name that I think is worth mentioning. For the most part, you can't get them all, but these are the guys you got to be aware of, guys that can help you win your league. Starting off with a guy where Jauan Jennings, he's rostered in 12% of leagues. Jauan Rice Jennings. He's the second 49ers player ever to have over 10 catches and 3 touchdowns in a game. Now, the week 3 stats are not necessarily completely registered on this website right here, but this website shows a lot of great things, okay? So look at his most recent game, guys. 12 targets, 11 catches, 3 touchdowns, 175 receiving yards. You're kidding me. And also, this website shows some great stuff about target rate, snap share rate. So his snap share, guys, 51% snap share, but that's the first 2 weeks of the season. I'm guessing in week 3, he ran a lot higher amount of snap share, probably closer to like 80%, guys. Listen, with Deebo Samuel out, with Brandon Ayuk, seemingly not being able to catch up from missing training camp, Jauan Jennings is a guy that you're going to want to get. And I think your league mates are probably going to be going for him too. So that's why we got some other options as well, just in case. Darnell Moneyman Mooney. Did you guys start him on Sunday Night Football? Because he might have helped win your matchup. He had 8 catches on 66 yards, and he's been good. Looking at his most recent, look at his games. 7 targets in week 2 and 8 in week 3. That's a good amount of the target share right there. In fact, let's pull up what his target share actually is. So he has a 23% target share through the first 2 weeks, I believe. I don't think that's updated, guys. So he's actually, with him and Kirk Cousins, he's been the main benefactor of all of that. And you can see he's averaging about 11.6 points per game. He's playing really, really well. 12 catches, 169 yards. And is that updated? Yeah, so that is not up. Look at this. Actually, you know what? It is updated. So he's got 12 catches, 166 yards, 3 weeks of the season. This guy was going undrafted in a lot of leagues. And I think, he's established himself as Kirk Cousins' number 2 receiver. And honestly, in the last couple of games, he's been right up there with Drake London as the number 1 receiver. So, what they've been able to do with Mooney has been really, really impressive. And I would definitely look at rostering him. Look at his snap share. He plays all of the snaps. 96% snap share. A lot of slot snaps. So if you're PPR, you should be good. I like Darnell Mooney a lot. Similar guy right here, Wan'Dale Robinson. Not rostered in a lot of leagues, right? He's on the New York Giants, one of the worst offenses in the league, until they just drafted Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors, he's had a couple multi-touchdown, insane, make your jaw drop type catches throughout the season so far. And he's the true number 1, and he actually opens up a lot of opportunity for Wan'Dale Robinson in the slot. If we look at Wan'Dale Robinson, he's playing a lot of snaps, right? So 66% of snaps, that's not great, but his route rate. So he's running, he's basically in there to run route. He's not in there to run block, and we can see that he's been getting a couple solid games. And then, week 2, 4 targets, not great, but he had the touchdown to bail him out. So it shows he can get touchdowns. Week 1, he had 12 targets. Week 3, he had 8 targets. Those are both very, very good numbers. Very, very good things in terms of the target share. You can see if you're over 20% target share on your offense, then it's someone that has to be rostered in fantasy football. He's got 4 red zone targets. This is a guy that can earn touchdowns. If we look at his expected fantasy points per game, so right now it says he's averaging 11.6. I'm not sure if that's updated with week 3, but you can see that his expected points per game are higher, meaning all of the unrealized air yards, balls that might have been dropped, stuff like that, right? Bad throws. You can see he's actually somebody that can definitely establish himself maybe as a wide receiver 2 down the stretch. Can Daniel Jones support 2 fantasy football relevant receivers? I don't know. But so far, Wan'Dale Robinson is looking like a borderline flex play coming up here against the Dallas Cowboys. So I actually, in my league, I'm going to probably have to start Darnell Mooney and Wan'Dale Robinson because of injuries to Puka, injuries to Joe Mixon. Who isn't injured at this point, right? So these are guys that are definitely worth mentioning. Emanuel Wilson. Now, I'm not as excited about a guy like this, right, where this is really just if you need a handcuff, if you want to play the odds. You never want to say put this guy on your lineup because you're waiting for an injury. No, it's not about waiting for an injury. It's more like you want to have guys that can compete. So I personally will not be going for Emanuel Wilson, but I know a lot of people might be. He actually was right on par with Josh Jacobs this weekend in terms of snap share, and he performed better. 85 total yards this weekend. He was basically the RB1. He had 16.5 points. He had the 2 catches, so he proved that when Josh Jacobs isn't there, he could potentially turn into an borderline RB2, a high-end RB2, borderline RB1 if Josh Jacobs misses time. Josh Jacobs has dealt with health issues in the past, but this is really just a nice handcuff. You can go ahead if you're struggling at the RB position with injuries. Isaiah Pacheco, probably a good guy to throw on your team. Jaylen Nailor. Now, not a lot of guys are talking about him, and he's actually playing very, very well in terms of fantasy because of touchdowns. He's had a touchdown every single week. Now, looking at his target share is not there. I mean, even the snap share in week 1's not there. And when Jordan Addison comes back, he's definitely going to go down. I don't care. Honestly, he has 1 touchdown every single week. Oh, and you know what? I don't think, a lot of people will be thinking a lot differently about Jaylen. There was I think it was like a 30-yard touchdown catch to Jaylen Nailor, right? He was wide open, blown coverage. Called back due to a penalty. So really, he was really close, guys, to having 2 touchdowns, adding on another 13 points. He would have been at 25 points for the week without that flag. I think it was an illegal pick, so obviously he didn't deserve it. But you can tell there definitely would have been a much different reaction. He would have probably been number 1 on waivers. And Sam Darnold has shown he looks like a quarterback that can potentially support multiple receivers with the passing volume and the way he's doing. Jaylen Nailor is a solid addition, man, especially in a dynasty league or a keeper type league. I think he's a guy you got to throw on your radar. Cole Kmet up next. Looking at Cole Kmet, people might have dropped him. People might have overreacted. They might have dropped him, cut him, sent him back to waivers after the first couple games. 1 target week 1, that's trash. 5 targets week 2. It's all right, but only 4 catches for 27 yards. That's not great. 6.7 points as a fantasy tight end. It's actually not terrible. Oh, wait. 11 targets, 10 catches, a touchdown, 97. The number 1 receiver for the number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is looking to really build that rapport with somebody. Roman Dunze looked good. Cole Kmet looked good. If Cole Kmet can be that guy for Caleb Williams, he can have a really, really good year and maybe even be a top 7 fantasy football tight end because we got Sam Laporta injured, Travis Kelce, 1 too many shots in his arm. We got, who else? We got Brock Bowers looks good, but he had a kind of a down week. There's a lot of busts at the fantasy football tight end position this year. So, Cole Kmet's a guy that can potentially produce week in, week out. Scam Darnold, we already talked about Scam. He had a really, really solid week. Now, keep in mind, he's been kind of touchdown dependent, right? 2 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns. Had some rushing yards in week 2. Do you get concerned a little bit about the injury? Maybe, perhaps a little bit, right? You got to be a little bit concerned, but he's been really, really good. 23 points, 21 points. I don't know what kind of scoring system this is. In my league, he's really, really good in terms of QB potential. Probably a guy you want to have on your lineup. This is more of if you have one of those, if you have Josh Allen, if you have Jalen Hurts, if you have Mahomes, you don't go ahead and you don't get Sam Darnold on your lineup. You go ahead and you get one of these other guys up here for the actual flex plays. But if you're rostering if your quarterback is maybe Jordan Love, he's hurt. If your quarterback is someone that's struggling, maybe Dak Prescott, he's struggling a little bit. Which I don't even think that's true. I think Dak Prescott's actually been playing pretty good in garbage time. But if you have a quarterback that might not be the best cream of the crop, go ahead and add Sam Darnold. Allen Moneyman Lazard. Again, not a great week 2 if I remember. Let me check. Game log, where are you at? I think week 2 had a lot of people concerned, yeah. And honestly, week 3 wasn't great either. So you can see his target share is dropping. He ran 100% of snaps in week 1, less in week 2, presumably less in week 3, probably because Mike Williams is having an uptick in snaps. But it seems like Allen Lazard is still one of Aaron Rodgers' favorite targets, and that's kind of paying off in the fantasy football column. He had 2 touchdowns week 1. He had a touchdown in week 3 as well. So he's kind of been touchdown dependent for that fantasy support. But if he's going to be getting those red zone looks, those red zone targets, you can see he's got 4 red zone targets on the year. He's playing really, really good, guys. 79 unrealized air yards. 11 catches, 150 yards on the season. And Aaron Rodgers looks like a man on a mission. Something to monitor here, you can see the target share is kind of below that 20% threshold, but 17% is not bad. Again, that's not including week 3, I don't believe. So really monitor how many snaps Allen Lazard plays in week 4, in week 5. You add him to your lineup. If he's getting outsnapped by Michael Williams in week 4 and week 5, outproduced, you can probably just send him right back to waivers, so you'll get clarity on this guy pretty quick. But he could be somebody that can really help win your league. Braylon Allen, we got 2 guys left, both running backs. Braylon Allen has been splitting with Rachaad White. He actually outsnapped, I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't know how to say it in football terms. He had more carries. There it is. He had more carries than Rachaad White in week 3. And he actually was a lot more efficient. I think he had like 9 carries for like 65 yards. I'm making it up. And Rachaad White had like 7 for 19. So he was a lot more efficient than Rachaad White. And he's proven he can be a pass-catching back as well. Am I talking about the right guy? I'm talking about Bucky Irving. My bad. You can see he had 3 catches. Am I still on the right guy? Okay, 3 catches, not 84. Okay, I thought it was 3 catches for 84 yards reception. No. He had the 3 catches, which is good. You want to see him in PPR. Can you kind of steal some of those targets away from Rachaad White? Yes. Now, again, this is kind of like a handicap. You know, unless Rachaad White gets further injured, because remember, Rachaad White came into this week a little bit banged up. Unless Rachaad White misses time, you're probably not putting Bucky Irving in your lineup. But this is a guy where you definitely can stash him on your bench. 76 yards week 1, 84 week 3. That is really, really solid. And he actually had, if you're struggling for running back depth, he has 2 weeks where if you get 10 points out of a running back that is kind of like trash, you know, not really going drafted, not really rostered, you take it and you don't complain at all. Now, I don't think he has any touchdowns yet, but yeah, 0 red zone touches. So Rachaad White is still the guy there, and Rachaad White is still the guy, but he's a guy that has to be rostered. Similar story with Braylon Allen, and he actually honestly looks way more explosive. This is a guy where if anybody can eat into Breece Hall's workload, it's probably going to be him. You can see he had 20 points because he had 2 touchdowns in week 2, so he's got some snaps in the red zone. Then you can see in week number 3, he had 68 total yards. His total yards is increasing week in, week out, and he's making the most of his snaps, which is what you want to see from a guy in fantasy. Those are all the week 4 waiver wire must-adds ASAP. Comment down below if you got any questions, how much to spend, what you got to do, any questions. Peace out. Thanks for watching.